Welcome to Next Level Operators, where we spotlight the people building high-performing businesses and how they're thinking about what's next. Today's guest is Julie Whiteside. She's the CEO of Solar Connection Construction. She spent over a decade in banking before transitioning into contracting, where she built a solar and roofing business that now runs almost entirely on referrals. She's deeply interested in technology, systems, and how contractors adapt as the industry changes. And today we're going to be talking about how her business evolved, how she's thinking about technology in the trades, and what has actually helped her contractors help her, and what actually helps contractors grow without losing their edge. Julia, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I think the best place to start is with you and how you ended up here. You spent 15 years almost or around that before getting into construction in the banking world. What pulled you out of finance and into this world?
So let me clarify a couple things. My background is actually sociology. I did a lot of research with different private entities like Westat, mathematical policy research, even for the census and the Department of Defense. The banking part of it, the financial part of it is through my husband, who's an insurance broker. When I partnered up with him before we even started dating, I basically became his assistant. I learned the rule of 72. I learned how money worked. And I realized then that it wasn't people's issue with life isn't an issue of money. It was an issue of money management. And it was an issue of putting your eggs not in one basket, right? And so I learned a lot. And when I went from finances into construction, it was more of a need for the financial customers. It was like, hey, you guys are paying, and granted, we are in Southern California. So I was simple-minded about it. It was like, you guys are paying $300, $400, $500 in your electric bill every summer. Why don't you go solar? I've read good things about it. It wasn't about me going solar. It wasn't about me going into construction. It was just hey, why don't you look into this as a customer? And invest in that. It'll bring your home value up. You'll free up your monthly income. You can invest that somewhere else. So it really was not in the beginning. At least I didn't see it in the beginning. Transition or as a marriage of the two. As I started referring more people and as I started getting more questions, and as I started getting why don't you look into it for us? Well, why don't you help us do this? That's when things were like, okay, well, let me look into it. Let me, instead of just me referring you to the local pharmacy, let me go to the pharmacy. Let me go see what's going on. Let me go see who to speak to. So it was kind of that concept. I've always been a customer service person. I've always been a people person. I've always been let me help you resolve your problem. Because at the end of the day, whether you're in construction, whether you're in finances, whether you're in the medical field, people come to you because they have a problem that they're trying to resolve. Right. And it's up to you, whatever that problem is, to help them find that solution and take it from there. So that's just second nature to me. And I've literally definitely gotten a couple of doozies along the way in every job I've had in my life where you're like, how did you do that? Or what? Excuse me again? You sit back and you're like, how does 2 + 2 = 5? But it's a challenge, and it's a challenge, at least for me, and I know I'm wired differently because of that I happily accept. And it's like, okay, you know what? I've never heard that before. Let me help you figure that out. Let's find how to figure this out for you. And that's how I approach everything. I don't care if I'm doing a bathroom remodel, if I'm putting a solar installation on, or if I'm helping, my kids when they were younger on their math homework. The goal is to find a solution.
Problem
That's
solving.
problem solving, right?
Totally. That's how you start. That's how I view business, entrepreneurship, starting businesses, especially. It's just like, okay, here's the problem. How do I solve it?
Yeah. I mean, and I think for me, that's part of why I love technology and I love the AI. I'm a little scared about it. And all jokes aside, we all watch Terminator, all of us in a certain age group. So we're like, I know how this ends, right? I know where this is going if we don't reel it in. But all jokes aside, I also know the value of the technology. I'm also very well aware of how it's made our life easier. Personally, I believe some stuff has dumbed us down more, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, and I will get into the technology a little bit more. Before we do get into that, I did want to, just clarify that, entrance into this industry, because I understand where the inspiration came from, people bringing that problem. So does that mean that, they brought you that problem and eventually you were like, I'm going to do this for you. You're interested in solar? Okay. Yeah, I can do it. I'm gonna put the solar on your roof
So
for you.
the actual entrance into the industry was a fluke. It was a combination of problem solving and it was a combination of physical vengeance, is how I say it. I had a contractor come to the house that we were living in. And long story short, we needed to redo the steps on the back porch because they were dry rotted. I did not know the term at the time. He said they were fine. He said, go ahead and use them. I fell through the steps. I herniated 8 discs. I shattered my right knee. I bumped my head and I started having seizures. This was 13 years ago. This beautiful scar you see on my neck, my neck fused. I have my back fused. And long story short, after all the surgeries, that took about 2 years. After neurology got the seizures under control, I was told that I was disabled for life and I was not allowed to go back to work. And at the time, it was a little devastating because I'm like, I have hands, I have feet. I can clean houses, I can landscape, you name it. I thought of all physical activity I could do. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm disabled for life. Like it wasn't connecting. It wasn't clicking in my head. And we still ran the brokerage. So I was like, it just doesn't make sense. So as I'm going through that personal struggle of arguing with my doctors, and I'm having all these customers in the financial field telling us, help us resolve this. I had I call him my little angel now. I had a contractor friend of the family who was like, well, why don't you get into construction? You're smart. You know how to read the contracts. This would be amazing for you. Go ahead and do this. My first response was, I'm a girl. What do you mean go into construction? I'm, 40 years old. I'm a mom. The dots weren't connecting. After I spoke with several other contractors, several other people, everyone just said, he's right. Why are you not doing this? This is a perfect field for you. Slept on it. And I woke up basically with an epiphany, like, the doctor said I was disabled for life and I was not allowed to go back to work. He never said I couldn't start my own business. That's kind of how Solar Connection started. It was just like, I was following doctor's orders. I didn't go back to work.
Yeah.
But I
So
just
how
started
long
a
ago was
company.
that?
That was the conversations of starting the company started around summer of 2016. By January of 2017, January 17th, 2017 is when I officially had my EIN number, my Secretary of State. Like I was official, my license, the whole shebang. I was official by January 7th, 2017.
You remember exactly. Actually, that was around the time I entered the roofing industry as well.
Okay.
Yeah. And so you got into solar 2017, and since then you've entered into roofing. Uh, it sounds like there's a pattern forming here of how you enter into things. Does that pattern hold up?
So do I. I think for me, the one thing I've known my whole life is you got to stay open-minded. I'm back from, graduating college and I'm going to date myself back in 1997. It was like, okay, well, I have a sociology degree. I can be a social worker, right? It was just an automatic, don't even think twice about it. But then it's like I could, and I can also go into research. I can also go into all these other fields that you don't realize are there until you're in that situation. And I think that's what construction is for me. I'm actually technically a general contractor. I can build a whole house if you need me to. Solar was just the niche came because again, the original customers were looking
The entry point.
yeah. My first house that we ever did was in the Crystal Cove community in Newport Beach, $10 million home back in 2017. I can only imagine what it costs now, but it was an investment banker. And I fumbled the whole process. I'm not going to lie. I fumbled it all. And he referred me 3 clients. He was like, you got this. The solar's on. Everything works. You're good to go. You're amazing. And his words live rent free in my head. He was like, you were honest with us and you stayed transparent. And that means more than whatever mistake happened. Because I would be like, oh my God, John, I forgot to send your electric company the permission to operate. I'll send it over right now. So he took it as no one needed to tell me that, right? You could have just done it. So he appreciated the transparency. He appreciated the honesty. And it wasn't a do or die end of the day deal. It was literally an overnight application.
And honestly,
But
you're speaking to something that speaks so much to me when I hear you say that. I love that because to me that is like one of the big differentiators between contractors. There's so much ego in this world, and I think ultimately customer experience like is so much heightened when your ego isn't so caught up that you can't acknowledge when you mess up. And it's just a reality. This happened and we're gonna deal with it and we're gonna overcome it. And I think customers appreciate the hell out of that.
what they do, and I that was my first one, and again, he referred me 3 clients. There's other mistakes I've done along the way. I mean, we're human, right? They're not do or die mistakes. No one's house has burned down. Nothing has fallen off anywhere. It's more paperwork. It's more getting an application in on the deadline, right? Instead of getting it in a week before when you had all the time in the world. Little things like that. But I keep it honest and I keep it transparent. One, to keep myself accountable. Two, hopefully to learn and grow and not do it again. And three, just because we're all human. At the end of the day, life happens. And the one thing I've learned, it doesn't matter if you live in Beverly Hills or if you live in South Central LA, life happens. People get sick, accidents happen, life happens. So I've learned to not assume. It's hard because I'm human, but I keep reminding myself that we can't assume everyone's in the same boat.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's high level though. Not everyone. That's a good thing to keep in your front of your mind. I try to keep that there too, and it goes away sometimes. And then I will try and call it back. So you said you're mostly in referral driven business. You're speaking to one of the things that led to a referral, at least in that situation. Is that the main driver of referrals, or what do you feel like is the main driver of like your customers referring you out? After a job is completed, like
I really think it's it's two-part system that we have with procurement. As you know, with government procurement, government contracts, you have to have a breakdown of your costs, right? If you're building a tough shed, it's like, okay, I need, 4 2x2s and they're $10 each. I need 10 screws, I need 5 nuts, I need 20 bolts. Whatever it is, but you got to break it down by price. So I've always done that with all my estimates, whether it's government or whether it's a homeowner. So I'll say, oh, you need 20 panels, they're 250 panels. Here's the price. You need 20 inverters. You need wiring. You need, you name it. It's all literally broken down in sections for them. And then it's like, I pay my guys $5 an hour. This is how much I pay the guys. This is how the 10%. This is how much we make as a company. So that breakdown, that transparency. And I tell everyone, Google is your best friend. Use the tools on your phone, use the tools on your laptop, whether it's Google, Siri, Alexa, pick an app, ChatGPT, pick an app. They're your best friends at this time in society. And if I do buy all my material specific wholesaler, specific suppliers, so I'm not going to go shop it. But if there is a good deal somewhere else, I have no problem with shopping it.
so what do you
Right. But
mean though when Google is your best friend in terms of what? For your customers?
for my customers, in terms that if I tell you, listen, each solar panel's 200 and I can say each solar panel's $500, right? And you Google solar panels near me. And there's a section where you can hit shopping. And it shows each solar panel is 150 or 250 or $300, then you're going to see that I'm ripping you off. Like you're going to see that I'm not just charging, 100% more per panel. You're going to be able to see that. And that transparency and I tell people when I say 250 a panel, it really is just a rough number, just to give you a rough idea. Based on the brand, based on the size, based on the wattage, they go more, they go less. But it at least gives you that stepping stone where, as a consumer, at least I like to believe, that you're aware where your hard earned money is going. Because unless, and I joke all the time, unless you got Kardashian money or Jeff Bezos money, you're going to want to know where your money's going. right? Whether you saved it, at one point in time you worked for it or you're still working for it. So who am I to come in and just gouge you when there's no need? I can keep it simple. I can keep it honest. I can make my $5 and I can move on. And that, from what I've learned and from what we've been in the business now 9 years, it works. The transparency works.
Apparently. And speaking about Google, I mean, I did check out your Google reviews and you've got a perfect 5.0 score. So apparently your
Thank you.
customers agree.
Yeah, I have helped. I have gotten calls of three that popped off the top of my head, of homeowners that we did no work for. The last one is a lady in Jurupa Valley by Palm Springs. And long story short, someone did her solar a couple years ago. They never did the application to set up her net metering so that the the utility company can give her solar credits. And actually, let me correct that. They set up the application, they never finished processing it. So when she called me, she's like, I've been paying this company $500 a month for my solar, and then I've been paying my electric bill as well. Can you help me? And I was like, that makes no sense. I dove into it for about a week. I was like, oh, your application never processed. Took over the application with the utility company. I had her permission to operate issued within 2 weeks. Not my customer, but
Yeah.
she's a human. But she is a customer. And my whole thing was, because my husband was like, well, how much are you making on that? I'm like, I'm making my heart full. What do you mean how much I'm making on that?
Oh, I love that. I love that.
I'm like, I'm being selfish here. I'm like making myself feel good. That's how much I'm making on that.
Totally.
You know, it's
And that
it's
stuff comes back. It does.
it does. No, it does. It
It
does.
really does.
But it was the funniest thing because I was like, what do you mean? But it was more about helping. And I am going back to wanting to problem solve, right? That's my core. That's
Yeah.
my core.
Yeah.
I'm like, my husband always says, he's like, you're the kind of person that you'll go solve everyone's problems. And if you didn't have a business or if you didn't have a job, you'd be broke and homeless. And I'm like, hey, I'd be broken, homeless, and problem solving. That's what.
Yeah, but not actually, not actually, because I honestly like feel like I feel like that way of living really does serve you. I really appreciate that. I like that a lot.
Thank you.
And I really do think that ultimately, my father always said stuff like that. He's a businessman, but he always taught us like when you can help people, help them in business too, in everything. Just help people when you can help them, and do it because it's the right thing. But also, you can know, that it's going to that people will also be helping you if you're the kind of person who's out there helping them. And I believe that. It's funny, I work storms a lot. Over the years, I've worked a lot of storms, and you're knocking on these doors, and I've always taken a few customers under my wings, knock on some door. And I go to Florida a lot, so there's older people, and you knock on some door and there's some widow guy who, is way out of his depth with what's going on. And I always have adopted a few of those people who I knock on their door and I'm like, I'm going to
Yeah.
help you through this process. We're going to figure this out. And it's just, I'm out there working, I'm making good money, and it is it's rewarding. So I like that story a lot, and speaks to me. So congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, no, but I know it's cliche, but we're all in this together, right? Like we're all human. We're all trying to just stay afloat, be good in theory, be good humans. Hey, in
It's
theory,
not, yeah, in theory,
in
I've
theory.
worked with a lot of different people. I've crossed a lot of different paths. Not everyone operates that way, but but a lot of people do.
Yeah. And I know for me, I'm 50. My mom is gonna be 70. My grandma just turned 90. They're still alive. I wouldn't want someone to take advantage of them, and that lives rent free in the back of my head, like the kids say. Doesn't and that doesn't necessarily apply just to them, that applies to everyone and anyone. I get calls all the time, well, how much is solar, or how much is a roof, or how much is building a house? And I tell everyone, I'm like, well, materials wise, depending on what you need, and I give them a quick breakdown over the phone. Not everyone does that. I keep being told, you're the first person who tells me this, you're the first person who gives me at least a rough idea. But I just go back to, if I was in your situation, I wouldn't want to get sold. I'm not big on being a salesperson. I never have been. That's always the first thing I always say. I am a customer service person. My job is to resolve your issue, whatever that issue may be.
Just so
That
happens
costs
that
X amount of money.
just so happens that makes you really good at sales because that's a winning attitude in sales. I am a salesperson, but it's because I do stuff like that that I'm so good at sales, because it's about relationships and connection and actually helping people. And if you do those things, you're going to be really good at sales.
Yeah. Well, my husband keeps telling me, he's like, "Stop saying you're not a salesperson," and I'm like, "I'm
It's
not."
just not it's just not what it's not the thing that's driving it's about your motivations, right? I think the
I
reason
think
that you
so.
feel like you're not in sales is because your motivation is this other thing. But I actually think you are. I think your husband's right. You are good at sales. You are in
Yeah.
sales. You just your motivations are such that you don't relate them to sales because so many people are trying to just sell you something. But I think you're better at sales when you're trying to sell people something they need and really trying to help them. And that's company culture too. You're the owner of this company. So when you have that, then your people have that attitude and they go out. And I think honestly, I've seen some really amazing companies where like the owner is taking that attitude and therefore his salespeople take that attitude and it really like creates this a really powerful organization where everybody is driving towards is motivated by helping customers. And the opposite is also true. When you got a owner who's just like telling them to just push as much as you can and get the contracts as big as possible, then that's what everyone in the organization is doing. So you've mentioned technology a bunch of times. You promote Google, you use ChatGPT. Is that, you're using ChatGPT right now for your business?
Not necessarily for the business. I did have it, but I actually just had it a week or two ago. I uploaded my contract that I had attorney create, 8 years ago. And I'm like, hey, can you consolidate this? It's a 28-page contract. Can you consolidate this? Because as I'm reading it, it's attorney put it together. So it's a lot of repetition, just worded differently, right? It's as I'm reading it, I kid you not, the first thing I thought about was like, this looks like something I wrote in fifth grade when I had to do 5 paragraphs. It was like the same ideas, just moved around. But yes, ChatGPT consolidated it. I think it did at 8 or 9 pages. It just gets to the nitty gritty. And I was like, okay, this looks better. This looks so much better. So I am starting to play with it, but nothing major yet. Just stuff that I'm not having it create anything. I'm just having it review what's already been done, what we're already giving people. Just make more check typos, check spelling, grammar. Um, I'm not necessarily, how do I say this? I'm not afraid of using it. I'm afraid of getting too comfortable with it. Because I know me. I'm going back and I always say I'm human. It's gonna, like our cell phones, it's gonna get so secondhand and it's gonna become second nature that I'm not gonna think. I'm just gonna keep telling it to do stuff. I'm not gonna proofread it before I send it out. And I think for me, I'm afraid of going there, just from personal experience with cell phones. We used to remember phone numbers. We used to remember addresses. I call mom, pick a kid, call the neighbor, call the client. I don't have to remember anything. And part of it is refreshing and part of it is scary because I always joke. It's like, hey, zombie apocalypse. How are we gonna survive this? Like, who do I call if I don't remember anyone's phone number? So the payphones aren't, they're very few and far between still nationwide. Great. I get to a payphone. Who am I calling? Whose number do I remember?
We've got two, three. I got four. I got four numbers.
See? I got my grandma's because she hasn't changed it in like 50 years.
Yeah, my brother, sister,
Yeah.
mother, and my wife.
Yeah. So, but it's the same thing. I know my mom's, I know my daughter's, I know my husband's. But I mean, we used to know off the top of my head, I joke, I used to have 20, 30 phone numbers and addresses built in. Uh, and that's no longer the case. I don't know. I also caught myself last week, and granted, I was under the weather, but I caught myself not remembering the electrical code for something. I was going over the engineering plans, and I was like, "This doesn't look right." And for the life of me, I could not remember. I was staring at my laptop. I was staring at the plans, and I'm like, "No," I just could not process the thought. And I grabbed my phone and I asked ChatGPT, "Hey, what's going on here?" Got my answer. I was right, but I didn't feel comfortable in my answer that I questioned myself and then I went to technology to confirm it. That part scared me. because it's too easy to not think after that. Instead of trying to figure out if you're right or wrong, it's like I don't have to think. I can just ask. I can just ask whatever app, and I don't have to think anymore. And I think that's the scary part for me.
Yeah, and I, I also think it is scary, and I think like because there is that potential, right? Like people do. I get emails that I'm just like, this is like a Chat GPT message, or like I assign somebody something for me, and it's like I can tell that that they didn't do anything with it, right? Like they didn't check it, and that is happening, and so that's scary on like a societal big level, right? For me personally, I notice the people who use it. I think that for me personally, like, right, I don't do that, right? If I create something with ChatGPT, then I check it. I make sure it becomes my assistant, but I'm still responsible for the work. And I think for you, honestly, just talking to you, I feel like that would be the same for you, right? Because you have such pride over what you're doing and you want to really communicate and connect with people authentically. And so for me, I'm using it in a really great way, I feel like. And it is still scary. It is still scary. But like, I don't send anything out that doesn't feel like it's my voice, that doesn't feel like it represents me honestly and authentically. And so to me, it's just making me really efficient and it's taking care of stuff that like I don't want to do, like just the kind of mindless stuff, like creating these automations that just take care of like things that really don't take like I'm uniquely qualified to do certain things. And they're high level things, they're thoughtful, creative things, connecting with people things, but updating my spreadsheet or like just sending text messages with updates, like, cause communicating with customers is a huge thing. And I spent a ton of time just sending like just this very generic like update, just they need to be updated on what's going on. And I spent a ton of time doing that. And that could be automated, right? And so I like the potential for it, but I also do like, I'm not I'm one user, right? I'm getting messages left and right that are just clearly ChatGPT.
And I think that's part of the turnoff for most of us that are more hands-on like that, because I get the same emails. And I'm like, "Really? You couldn't?" I got an email a couple days ago, "We can do your Solar Connect CA. We can do your marketing." And I was like, "Really? You couldn't even, like, get the right name?" Like, it's like, "Okay, next."
Yeah, yeah, I hear that. So I guess with all that in mind, technology, your fears of technology, is that, you're looking forward, you're looking at this landscape, your business is already working, right? You're already getting referrals. So is technology necessary for you? Is that something that you imagine bringing into your company or not? Yeah.
Yes and no. Definitely necessary. On my laptop. We're on our cell phones. Definitely necessary. Definitely makes my life easier when it comes to the applications that are available, like for solar editing and for the creating of proposals and templates. The apps that come to mind, Open Solar, which is completely free. Homeowners can use it. Industry people can use it. But you basically type in your address and it gives you a picture of like Google Earth. It gives you a picture of your roof and you can add solar panels wherever you want. You can add stuff as you please. That wasn't the case before. That back when we actually started 9 years ago, I'd go to the job site, take the pictures, get up on the roof, measure, and
My
do the
first couple roofs we measured and
measure. Yeah.
that was
Versus
it.
using the
Like,
apps that are available now.
yeah.
Yeah. So you get it. So those definitely are gonna, I'm not moving away from those. I'd be lying to myself and to you. It's just easier. It's just faster. I am, however, concerned that it will take over certain jobs. I am a social enterprise. I'm certified local small business, minority women owned business, and a social enterprise. As a social enterprise, my goal as the business owner is to get jobs, right? As any business owner. But my goal to get the jobs, going back to the conversation we were just having, isn't for the job itself, but to keep people working. I hire from within the community. I train. If you come to me and you're like, hey, I've never done solar, I've never done roofing, but I want to learn. I'm like, let's go. As long as we have enough jobs available where I can bring you in, I'll bring you in. I'll give you a daily rate. It's about $250 a day here in Southern California. And you'll get paid as you learn a trade. Because the reality is none of us are, to live forever. We definitely need more people to come into the trades. And why not? You help me by being my workforce. I help you by giving you a paycheck. We help the homeowner by resolving their problem. It's a win-win. Right. And I'm afraid that some of those jobs, maybe not necessarily the physical trade jobs, the going up and installing the solar, but at least the office jobs, like the receptionist, the bookkeeper. I think some of those jobs are going to be lost. And it sucks. I can't say it in either way. It really sucks. And it's going to be just one person controlling, pick an app, Chat GPT, for example, for different companies. And that is going to be their job instead of having 5 receptionists, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's kind of where it's heading now. Paralegals, stuff that again, Chat GPT can do. I really believe people are going to lose their livelihood, and they're going to they're going to change fields and find their niche, but that wasn't the goal. I mean, I know that if I were a paralegal, for example, and I've been doing it for 20, 30 years, I don't want ChatGPT to take my job and have to learn go into a new industry, or learn a new career at my age. People will. I know I would have to, but that wasn't, in my imagination, that wasn't the goal of ChatGPT, even though that's gonna most likely be the reality.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I mean, it definitely will be replacing some jobs. That's the writing is on the wall. And there's multiple things, right? It will eliminate some jobs, and it will make some jobs easier or make them more effective. And it'll do both. It'll do both simultaneously. And yeah, we're just gonna have to adapt.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I was joking with my daughter last night because she was, I forget what she found. They went to storage over the weekend and they found a Walkman, and she was like, "I'm like, yes." I go, "Before cell phones, we had a Walkman. We would put tapes," and I'm like, "You want your mind to be blown? We used to actually listen to the radio and record songs off the radio." And onto these tapes. I'm like, and then after that, we used to burn CDs and download our favorite songs and add them to the CD to put in our car. And then, so I'm going down the history of how we ended up with Spotify, right? And she was like, what'd she say? She was like, "Oh, that was archaic." She's like, how did you guys survive? And I'm cracking up. And she's like, I'm like, you know why it's so funny to me? Because as archaic as it may sound to you, I can only imagine what my granddaughter's gonna say. in, you know, in 30, 40, 50 years from now, to her own kids, right? Like, "You guys did what? You guys had laptops?" Or whatever the technology is at the time. I can only imagine how it's gonna go. And the stuff that they thought, or they'll think that is archaic, we're all like, "Oh, wow, look, ChatGPT."
Yeah. 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 Well, only time will tell, and it's gonna happen quickly. So we'll see what
We'll see what
happens
the
over
chips
next.
end up, yeah.
Exactly. Well, Julia, thanks so much. So, just to wrap up, if someone listening to our show, or just a little ending advice from our guest, wants to grow their business, is trying to start a business, wants to do it without, burning out or losing quality, where do you think they should start focusing first?
If you want to start a business, my advice, and I've given this before, go to your local SBA. That's the number one, so that you don't spin your wheels. Your local small business administration, they're nationwide and they're online. They'll give you the checklist of things you need to do to start a business, because trust me, there will be something you're going to forget. So instead of wasting your wheels or trying to figure out what I need, the SBA has that checklist for you. And you can literally just check off the marks as you complete tasks. The second thing I would invite every local small business to do nationwide is try and get certified through their local municipalities or through their local utilities, because that's going to do two things. It's going to vet you. It's going to confirm who you are as a person and as a business. So it's going to give you that extra little badge of confirmation that homeowners want to see. If I'm certified as a local small business through LA County vetted me. They know who my name, they know my business, they know I'm legal, right? I'm paying my taxes, I'm doing everything by the book. I'm not lying about who I am or what I do. We've been vetted. And I really truly didn't think it was that important. I did it just because I had a different vision in mind when I started. But I have gotten people literally say, "Hey, I checked you out and you are who you are." And because of that, I've gotten business that I never thought I would get. So those would be my first two. And lastly, I would add, don't stress. The corporate ladder, whether you're going up the corporate ladder or whether you're going the entrepreneurial way, it's not a straightforward thing. You'll get sideswiped. There'll be stuff, that comes thrown your way that you're not expecting. And to that I say life will life will give you lemons, go make orange juice. You don't have to accept what life gives you. You you don't. You have to accept what you're willing to accept. And if you don't want to make lemon juice, get your ass up, go get some oranges, make some orange juice. You are in control. You are the one in control, no one else. And you don't have to accept what's given to your way. Trust me, if that was the case, I wouldn't be in business now. So please don't sell yourself short. You're worth more as a human being and as a potential entrepreneur than what you may or may not give yourself credit for. So get out there, get your ideas going, and you're going to do amazing.
These words from Julia Whiteside. Julia, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story, sharing your experiences. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. You guys have a great day.
You too.